we're going to talk about RackBox, we're going to talk about AudioSpread, and we're going to talk about RBMS in the next session. So what is the RackBox? What markets are we addressing with this? How does it work? What alternatives exist? What do customer need to order, or how do you actually get that in front of your customer, and where does it go? So before I start with the RackBox, a few words about our business. About a third of Barix business is what I call design-in or OEM business. Customers that come to us and say, hey, Barix, we've looked at your stuff. You're the guys that seem to do what we want, but you don't have the product. We want something totally different. And RackBox is nothing but the result of exactly such a customer encounter. So what happened was that we've been approached by a large US TV broadcaster, and they said, we're looking for a product. We're looking for a box that we can mount in the rack and that has a one push button notification for an announcement to all our 220 plus affiliates. Can you build this? And the result of that is this product I hold in my hand here that we have custom designed for this client, and we've built 220 times and we sold them, and we ended up with a design-in product for these guys, but also with a product that we think is sellable as it is here today. So what was this about? Why did they approach us? What did they want to do? Basically, this broadcaster had a product, which is this beautiful red box here, that did exactly this. So in their technology room, where you configure the satellite transponders and things like that, they had a box in the main transmission location or broadcast facility, where they could talk to all the affiliates and tell them things like, in 5 minutes, we're switching to transponder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the live broadcast from the hurricane from Florida. And the system that they had was using satellite, and they said, we would like to go on our IP-based network, and we need exactly the same. And we have very clear requirements. Can Barix do this? So, I mean, when we started this, I was a bit surprised. I said, why do they come to us, and why not buy some Intercom Dante-based whatever thing? But it was very soon very clear. We're running this across the nation in the US over their VPN network into 220 locations. They wanted low bandwidth. They wanted to use their standard data network for this. And they had a lot of other requirements that were not particularly difficult, but very special. So we worked with them, and what we came up with is a complete solution that works like this. On the top, you see the RackBox units. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about what they are, but it was very clear. They said it needs to be minimal. It needs to have one button only, and then I talk. And on the reception side, there must a light go on when somebody talks, and then I hear. They wanted us to distribute this through their intranetwork, and what we proposed for that is a solution we call AudioSpread, and I'll explain a bit later what AudioSpread is. We built the units so that the units can actually be configured to either be talk stations or receiving stations. So maintenance of these units is more simple. I just need one type and I can switch it. And basically we ended up with a lot of receiving station and only a few talk station. What we proposed to them was a management system so they could actually tell whether everybody was working in online and from where they could configure the system. The management system here in the middle on the right is not needed for operation of this system, but it is a nice addition to help manage the whole communication system over 220 receivers. So what is the RackBox box? It's a single button user interface that enables immediate delivery of important messages on their network. It's a push to talk in its pure form. It's a transceiver. It can be both. It's friendly to install. First of all, their requirement was it must go into a rack. Also, their logistics problem was that they actually have a company that installs these units in each of the cities in the US. So there's 220 packages going to 220 facilities, and then some technicians needs to go in and install and put the software and everything. So we had to streamline this. In this case, we ended up using a USB stick, or we can configure from the web portal. And it's managed from a web portal. The box we build is based on the IPAM 400, so the core technology is what we already had. However, around it, we built a system that followed exactly their requirements. There is an internal speaker on the left, 5-watt output. There's a volume control. Key thing with the volume control is that you cannot actually turn the sound off. So the minimum volume still had to be at 30%. There is a push to talk button that has a light, 2 LED indicators, and an XLR connector for a microphone. On the back, the unit has an RJ45. It has USB interfaces, as I mentioned, for the software update at the moment, could be used for other things. It has a speaker selector, so I can select whether I want to use the internal speaker or actually mount an external speaker. It has a line in, so they have started to integrate this with some TV broadcast intercom systems like Riedel and the likes, and use those to feed into the system. Even the push to talk button can actually be brought outside via these terminal connectors. It also has a relay inside that switches when there's an announcement, so they could put a big orange flashlight on top of the rack so people see what's happening. Then we're feeding this with a standard power plug. So this was truly designing. The customer said what he wanted. This morning, somebody asked, well, this is a rack mount unit. Why doesn't it have 2 power supplies? That's what we asked them too. And they told us the racks that they're using are already having backup power, so they don't want that. We could easily add this to the box. The box that we built for them looks like this. Now, that's the box, and we need the box to talk to the other boxes. And in order to do this, we have deployed AudioSpread. AudioSpread is a solution that forwards the message to pre-configured destinations. Basically, forwarding multiple RTP sources to a predefined list of IP addresses. Clearly, the way it works right now, you need to have fixed IP addresses. You have to know where it goes. So for this client, this runs on an intranetwork within their facility. Even the management server had to be inside the network. We could probably easily expand this system to work with more security and with some kind of contact resolution via the internet. But as a platform, the way we've implemented it, it runs on the client's intranet. So what is Barix AudioSpread? Barix AudioSpread solution forwards one or multiple RTP streams that are coming in on a particular port each into the AudioSpread unit and forwards it to a predefined list of IP destinations. The beauty about this is we're very fast. This is extremely simple. It's very reliable. I can have multiple AudioSpread units and run them in parallel for scalability, but also for redundancy. And for the guys of you that are familiar with the Rebroadcaster app on the Barionet, AudioSpread really is the new Rebroadcaster. Now we can deliver audio spread even for other applications. We run this on a M400 unit. It takes the live streams and duplicates them, as I mentioned, or multiplies them. It can be used as an audio gateway, spreading any kind of RTP-based streams. So you can also go to other receivers with this. The key features, it's packet-based and it's truly low latency. We measured 300 microseconds on the first endpoint um, in terms of latency for the signal to be spread out. In fact, in this design, we had the requirement to have some redundancy of the core routing functionality. And the way we've done it is we actually put two audio spread and there is no failover or configuration failover or anything. They basically run in parallel and the receiver just picks from one. And if he cannot get anything from that guy anymore, it just picks it from the other one. So it's a fairly simple, very robust way to implement redundancy in the core switching. Now that is all we need. We need audio spread and we need the talk boxes, and we have a rack-based intercom solution where one or many can talk to a lot of receiving endpoints. To make it more comfortable to use, we added the management platform, and this is you've seen in the beginning, the BRMS, the Barix RackBox management system. Basically, it is a software that allows me to centrally configure the system and to monitor whether the actual receivers are still online or whether we've lost connection to them. So what I can do with it, configure new devices. One thing we had to add was a dedicated test channel for newly added devices. The problem is that this is an emergency channel and they didn't want to actually have to say this is a test only because they add one device somewhere and then 220 receive this message. So what we've done is we built, and inside the box is actually a retail player with a pre-recorded message that just continuously plays out. But basically we've built this as a test channel. And when I register a new device, it registers to the test channel too. And I can listen to this constant message and say, yep, it's working. And if then a live channel broadcast happens, the receiver will pick it up and decode it. We implemented visualization of the system status. Here on the side, you see some of the icons we defined. So the microphone is a talk station. Then we have a receiver. We have status. We have connection lost. And we map this onto a map. We also support admin and view-only user accounts. And we have a config backup on USB. The customer wanted to install the whole server and everything inside his network. Nothing should go outside. So even this management system is installed in their network. And that's how it looks like. So you see some of the installed devices here. The ones in red don't have connection. And I can use this device manager and I can go in and, for example, configure individual devices. Now, if you look at the user interface, might look familiar. You've not long ago seen the silence monitor. So we're using our framework for a web service, web management service to adopt it to this application. It's one reason why we're actually very fast and usually highly price competitive when it comes to a customized product. Because we're reusing our elements, the IPAM 400 code elements on there, and we're reusing our technology like this web configuration and notification platform. We were able, in this case, from the first talks of when they said what they wanted till we delivered the first POC, to do this in about 4 or 5 months. And now all the units have actually been delivered and are deployed. So what you see here, if you read exactly, if you can do that, you see that the RB1, the first one, is a talk station. Its state is alive, backup state normal. I see the IP address, and the last contact to the management system was on the 23rd of January at 14:06. From that same management system, we can configure devices. So I can pick a device and I can tell it what it should be, and have the device IP address set and so on. Also, I can configure user accounts from here, differentiating between an admin user and just a viewer of the information. So here we are. We have a solution. It's highly adaptable. We can be very fast and do certain add-ons if the customer wants those. If the customer is happy with what we've built for these guys, we're allowed to sell this anywhere. So we're looking for clients. Where do we see the applications? Well, definitely TV stations with affiliates and other studios everywhere. This was one. I think there's at least 4 or 5 more in the US. There's definitely 2 or 3 in Canada, and I'm sure there's a lot of them in South America. What I've seen, and I've worked in the broadcast market for 15 years, is that the workflows and the system design usually is very similar in all these broadcasters. So I'm very certain that many of them have a notification system like that. And I'm also certain that some of these still run on satellite. So it could be very interesting to approach these guys and find out what they're doing. However, what we found is that in many times people are interested in this very simple way of communication wherever there are lots of racks, for example, in an IT data storage center. Or I recently had the chance to go into an infrastructure room of a train station, and it was exactly the same. It was racks for racks and racks, and they had some intercom capabilities there, but it wasn't really nicely put in place. And this would have been a great place for a RackBox solution. I've also put the military on here because it's truly military simple. It has one button and one thing to talk into. Nobody can do anything wrong. And from that point of view, it could there too. Emergency response on many locations. I think there are opportunities out there that we can address with this. So features, it works over the wide area network and standard IT infrastructure. At the moment, confined to an intranet, could be expanded if we have a customer that wants that, even or using some public network infrastructure. It's very easy to install and configure. We've done a lot of work there because that was as important to the customer as that the sound actually arrives on the other side. And it is expandable to customer requirements. We actually have not put RackBox on the price list. You will later see, you can get some documentation on it, but we truly see this as a project. We have to talk to the customer, we have to understand what he wants, and eventually we have to do some adaptation to it and make it his product. And eventually this fits as it is. But we don't see this as a product off the shelf like an IP former or an Xstreamer. We see this as a solution that we talk to the customer about what exactly he needs. And we use our strengths in fast adaptation and fast prototyping to convince him of our solution. So what else is out there that could compete with this? I mean, one thing I ask myself is, why did they come to us? And interestingly, I didn't find much. I found a product from Telcos Alliance, but honestly, it already has too many buttons. It has 8 more. So you can do some zone selection or something like this. If they need fancy selection in a TV broadcaster, they buy a TV broadcast optimized intercom solution that talks to headsets and radio receivers and can make multiple zone or groups. As I mentioned, Riedel is one I know, and there's a bunch of those. However, when you want a very, very simple announcement to all, There's actually almost nothing on the market. I found some informer public address interface that's IP enabled, but you need more stuff to get this working. So I couldn't really find anything that competed the simplicity of RackBox. So how to sell? As I mentioned, this is not on the price list. I'm not going to put it on the price list. I want you to be aware of it. You can download, for example, on our webpage, product flyers for the RackBox intercom. You can also download from our webpage an AudioSpread flyer. And if you have interest in the solution or just an AudioSpread product, contact us, and then we'll discuss how we get this in front of the customer and how we engage with the customer. So documentation is there. I think the entry into the customer can be done with it. However, I think at the end of the day, we need to look at the system he wants to understand what this will cost, and we need to see what they exactly want. So on our webpage, there's actually a request a demo of RackBox. Basically, what I say is collect requirements and contact us. And this has been a very interesting business, very big also. And I think there is quite a few that we can do in a very similar area. But it doesn't even need to be similar. If a guy comes up and says, I think Barix has the technology, I need something, and it is for a decent amount of products, we will find a way. Why do I say a decent amount of products? Because usually a customized development at Barix costs somewhere between $10,000 to $25,000 for sure. And we need to get that money somehow. Now, if they buy a lot of product, then we can roll it into the product. Sometimes the customer is willing to pay the project, and we prefer that way, of course, and they pay as an NRE for that. But if he only needs 5 units, then distributing $10,000 on 5 units is sometimes not very attractive. So the size usually depends a bit on whether we find a deal with the client. Now, I think many of you are aware we have spread out with Barix. We have opened a development office in Portugal last year. I think we hired the first people in August. And RackBox was designed there. An excellent example of how we can do quick design in. They're really good. I'm very happy with them. So I'm looking forward to you finding customers that allow us to test them for customized implementations.